on this 4 o'clock hour, and joined by Dan Wetzel. Yahoo Sports has been covering the college landscape and a lot of other stories in the world of sports for many, many years. Dan, thank you for your time with Craig. I'm David Smoak. First of all, have you ever seen so many different type of stories merging at once and changes in college athletics during a 1 or 2 year period like we have right now?
No, a new era is clearly upon us, and we're in the transition of a new era. I mean, you got conference realignment, name, image, and likeness, the relaxed transfer portal, the college football playoff coming. That's probably just 4 of them. We could probably break those down into subgroups. So it's a really interesting time for the sports, for all of them, but particularly football, which, obviously the most popular.
Dan, let's break down some of those. I mean, you mentioned realignment. We've talked a lot, being in Big 12 country, about that ad nauseum, if you will. Nothing really bubbling up this week. There's been months and months, obviously, of back and forth talks and all of that. What is your general take on the waiting game when it comes to the Pac-12 and whatever may spawn from that, whether it's sufficient enough or not?
Obviously it's about how much money this Pac-12 deal is worth. Can they, is it too low or is it, it has to make sense for the Pac-12 schools to leave. So I think it has to be considerably below what the Big 12 is offering, right? If I think it's 31 or so million a year for the Big 12. I don't, none of these other schools, these 10 schools of the Pac-12 have agreed to everything, revenue sharing, scheduling playoffs. They're ready to do their grant of rights. They're just waiting for the check to come in. And my guess is if it's within maybe even 20% of that 31 number, maybe even 25 million, that's enough for those schools to stay put. Or maybe that won't be, or maybe it will, but it'll be something like that. I don't expect those schools to go. They want to be together in the Pac-12. But if it's at that 20% below, or maybe a little bit more, then I think you're going to see maybe a Colorado or somebody take a jump, and then everything could crumble down. But my sense is they want to be out there. It's just, is there enough money? And does the Big 12 offer that proper alternative for them? And then if the Pac-12 stays put, does the Big 12 try to still add teams? Does it, what's going on? It's very, very aggressive, obviously. It's very public. Doesn't mind stories out there about them looking around. Definitely talk about a new day. I mean, these things to be done in the cloak of secrecy. No one wanted to dare even whisper that something might be happening. The Big 12's just out there with an open for business sign.
What do you think of the brashness or brazenness, whatever you would like to refer to it as or describe it as, of Brett Yormark? Obviously, he's a different figure than a lot of college athletics people are used to seeing. That's kind of been the trend, though, of TV guys coming into the game as commissioners, or people like a Brett Yormark. What do you think? I mean, he's obviously ruffling some feathers, good and bad, but what do you make of it all?
Well, I think he's there. He's there to serve the Big 12. And 22 months ago, when Texas and Oklahoma announced they were leaving for the SEC, there were some, and I'm sure your audience remembers, you guys remember, there were some dark days where it was, is this league going to last? Will it last a week? Everyone, who's leaving. So being aggressive and showing strength has really stabilized the Big 12, where, they're in a position to add. They put the Pac-12 on its heels. They've made great moves to pick up some very good American Athletic Conference teams at BYU. They're out there. Hey, let's have a bowl game in Mexico. Let's have maybe we'll play a game at Rucker Park in Harlem in basketball. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I think they needed somebody to come in and say, look, this is a great league. We got great markets. Yeah. Are we going to be the SEC and Big Ten now? We don't have the population outside of the state of Texas to be able to maybe do that, or those brands, but the idea 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago, someone called in and said, hey, you'd be surprised at how how strong and united the Big 12 is in those dark weeks after OU and Texas decide to leave. I think anyone would take this deal. So I applaud whatever he's done to stabilize the league. I'm in favor of as many leagues as possible.
Dan, back in 21, after the Texas OU SEC story, the Big 12 reacted quickly. Bob Bowlesby. You're right, we did shows where we didn't know what was going to happen with the schools we covered, the conference we covered. But one of the schools that was very much on the radar, whether it was heavily at the top or what, was Memphis. And I don't know what the story was. Were they ready or not? Was there a delay? But I was told that they were absolutely someone the Big 12 was more than just interested in. And then there was the story last week about Yormark in Memphis, whether on campus or what, and then he denied it. What's your take on Memphis in the Big 12?
Oh, I don't know if the Big 12 needs anyone right now, but Memphis to me makes a ton of sense and always did. It's had a good, solid football program. It's had a great basketball program in the past and certainly could. It fits in a lot of ways in what the Big 12 is trying to do. There's a connection in Memphis between the school and the people of Memphis that you don't always get with these city schools. For a long time, there was no pro sports there. There are obviously the Grizzlies now. But, they sell out the NBA stadium for basketball. They have the Liberty Bowl when they're winning, they get, good attendance. It's not a forced deal like you have sometimes with city schools. I would certainly say the connection between the University of Memphis and the people in Memphis is greater than University of Cincinnati and the people in Cincinnati, where they've long had two pro teams. So, it's right there in the middle of the SEC. It's not that far. I don't know why it's been passed over. But I certainly, if they're considering adding, if it's one of those deals where, hey, we're going to add Colorado and one other team, Memphis to me makes an enormous amount of sense for that. I don't know what the downside would be to Memphis if this is the standard.
We have started to see some of the leaks of the SEC schedule that will be released later on tonight. The OU and Texas first version for next year. Obviously, a lot of excitement surrounding that. And there was the dust up, I guess, headlines wise, as far as what the SEC decided to do with scheduling, at least in the immediate future. What were your thoughts on all that, Dan? Was it as big of a deal as maybe it was portrayed to be? Was it not a big deal at all? Or, was the SEC maybe making a misstep for the first time in a long time?
In what specifically?
In not having nine conference games.
Oh, 9 conference.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm in favor of the 9 conference games. I'm in favor of these leagues. If you're gonna spend all your time wrecking traditions, changing things, trying to marginalize other teams and leagues, and you're going to create this big, huge league, at least give college sports fans the games they want to see and more of them. If you're going to have this big league, then I want more Oklahoma and Alabama and Texas and LSU and whatever. They're doing this in the Big Ten too. They Penn State, Ohio State, and Penn State, Michigan were annual games. Now they're every other year. Well, I would posit that even in your listenership, if there were 3 games in the Big Ten people wanted to watch, it's Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, Penn State. Well, they just took 2 of them and made them every other year instead of every year. That's not giving fans and all of us that have to go through all this change, that have to get streaming services, that are seeing all the uncertainty. Heck, at least promise me better games or more games. So I'd like to see 9 for the SEC. I think they're going to get there. I'd like to see maybe a little better scheduling from the Big Ten. But, this is where we're at. And look, if there's one thing that overrides all of it, we're going to get to see Texas versus Texas A&M. I'm sure you guys are waiting for that. I've been waiting for that, and I don't live in Texas. So that's been one of arguably the biggest casualty of conference realignment was losing Longhorns, Aggies, and at least that's coming back. See, like that, and this is why they need to go 9, right? Because you need to play that every year. You're going to play Texas and Oklahoma. That's got to be, if you're only going to have one rivalry game for Texas, yes, it has to be Oklahoma. You got to play it up in Dallas, all that. But we also need Texas and Texas A&M to play every single year. Like, why would you not give the sport, the fans, the schools, all of that, and say, oh, no, sorry, we can't do that because this school that, Mississippi State's worried about getting 5 wins or something like that. I don't care. Well, if we're going to do this, let's do this.
Yeah, and I thought that when they had some of it released today, that Texas, I don't know if you could have picked a better first year. They have Oklahoma. You knew that. We knew that.
Yep.
A&M on the road. They're playing Arkansas, and they've played them a few times since even Arkansas left for the SEC. And then a home game against Georgia. And, I mean, Texas will play those type of non-conference games anyway. And so I think I'm thrilled with and that's just a part of it. Oklahoma, Alabama, that makes sense. I'm looking forward to it. As much as they get nailed as they should for 8 games, not 9, looks like they may have gotten this one right.
They got some great games for Texas. And it's just, if you go 9, you're going to get those more often, right? That's it. It just seems so simple to me. But obviously, there's all sorts of different factions. People that they're worried about competitiveness, they're winning or fairness and all this stuff. I'd like to just say, hey, let's get the best games going. Let's do this. But in terms of the first year, yeah, fantastic for it's going to either be fantastic or horrible. But for those of us that just want to watch it, Longhorns that's 4 games, certainly 3, and that Arkansas game obviously has tremendous historical and local interest, and it should be a good game. But right there, that is at least 3 games where the University of Texas is in the game of the week in college football. That's a great thing for the Longhorn program and the school and the fans and all of that.
That is kind of just off the cuff thought as you were saying that, but do you think of the 4, and I know that it probably takes some time to really think this through, but does Texas stand to gain the most perhaps with the SEC versus Oklahoma versus the LA schools out in the Big Ten, or does one of those others maybe seem like they could probably stand to gain more if things go well moving forward?
Well, here's the thing. It's going to be hard to win. Texas was in a league where it had the advantage over everybody in terms of resources, proximity to talent, budgets, potential, all of those things. Oklahoma certainly had no one's going to weep for the Sooners. They got plenty of advantages too. But so in terms of going to the SEC, you're going to get a lot of high profile games. You're going to get mentioned in the biggest league and all of that. But you're now not, you're looking eye to eye to people. It's not looking up a little bit at them. And that's the difference for Texas. Can they, if Texas is rolling, it's reasonable for Texas to go into a Big 12 season and say, hey, we have one game against Oklahoma that, it's a fair fight. It's not that TCU couldn't beat us or Baylor couldn't beat us or someone couldn't beat us, but we should beat those schools. That isn't going to be the case anymore. There's at least 5 or 6 schools that look at Texas and go, yeah, that's fine. We got just as much, if not more. So that's going to be the interesting reality for the Longhorns. They weren't able to capitalize in the Big 12. How do they handle this? So, but it's certainly going to be a fascinating story. But certainly in terms of first year attention, yeah, Texas is going to be a big story no matter what happens in the 2024 season.
I just was reminded in the chat room by Scotty that, Dan, they have Michigan in 2024 in the non-conference too.
Okay, 4.
Yeah. 10.
Yeah, it is the year. It's the Longhorn year. And, look, put it this way. This is the new reality. And Michigan's in Michigan, right?
I believe, I believe Michigan. So, yeah, at the Big House.
So you're at Michigan. You're at A&M. Your neutral site with Oklahoma. You're at Arkansas. We'll take Arkansas as the 5th. When at Arkansas is your 5th best game, oh boy, and you got Georgia coming, you go 3-2 against that. That's good. That's just good. I'm sorry, but you go 3-2, you go 4-1, you should be ecstatic. That's the new reality of college football.
And in time for the in time for the expanded playoff too.
yeah, and hopefully the committee understands that, because it's like, well, yeah, we lost at Michigan, but well, it's not easy to win at Michigan, or we had to go up to Fayetteville and they went crazy up there, but man, you're at Michigan, at A&M, and at Fayetteville, and then who knows what the rest of the schedule will be, but just those three, it's going to be a grind, but it's going to be really exciting. There's a lot of downsides to conference realignment. I don't like it. I didn't want it. If I could wave a magic wand, we go back, but there's also going to be a lot of fun games and exciting times for the schools that are in that position.
What are your thoughts? Last thing, Dan, thanks for your time, by the way. Great to have you back on the show. Your podcast with Pat and Ross, and the one I listened to, that made my ribs hurt. I was laughing a few times at how much fun you guys have. It's a great podcast that I was able to listen to. So apparently the Big 12 did meet in person with Colorado. That's been reported. We've mentioned that, and maybe others have too. Is that unique in that you have a team that's a part of a conference and that is out there? Is that how unique do you think that is? Because most of this is cloak and dagger, as you mentioned, or meet at midnight somewhere where no one knows where we are.
Yeah, other than ones where it's, obvious moves, right? Where you're just saying, hey, look, I don't know, whatever. Memphis is going to not be shy about saying they're meet with somebody. But, Maryland, when Maryland and jumped to the big, and Rutgers jumped to the, whatever, they went to the Big Ten, it was a shocker. And then when Pitt and Syracuse went to the ACC, it was a shocker. And then OU, Texas is, pretty much a shocker. Mm-hmm. And then UCLA and USC. We've had them almost year after year after year here. So for a school that is in a Power 5 league, we still have those, to just blatantly be like, yeah, we're looking at our options. Here's the other thing about Colorado. They were 1-11 last year. They have no basketball program. I know they have Deion Sanders now, which might be the single, nothing could change perspective of a program more than what Deion Sanders did without even coaching a game.
Yep.
But Colorado, this is not hey, Oklahoma, you interested in us? Okay, you get that. Colorado, who the heck wants Colorado? There's no recruits. They don't have a lot of fans, and they've been absolutely terrible for years. And they're just we're just, we're playing the field here, checking things out. Amazing times. But that's the spot they're in. No one wants to be left flat-footed. Everyone's got to get out in front of it. And if the walls start crumbling, you got to get out. And Colorado, of all people, is ready to do it, apparently.
Dan, great stuff. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your time. Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports with us, college football.